Saturday night at the Cecil
Saturday
Garage.
night to the Cecil Garage, yeah. It was actually quite funny.
I drove
it was very romantic.
I drove up with a friend of mine and said, "Fuck, let's go somewhere else. This looks dodgy." Most scariest night of my life. I drove a stand in a BMW, a white one. It was, I remember my entire life flashing before my eyes, and we just got out the car park.
Never at all.
Stan originally wanted to be a gynecologist.
Yeah.
He actually volunteered for a long time.
Yeah, I was volunteering for an extended period.
His mother found out then it was a big problem. Remind me to send this link to
Actually,
your mom.
yeah. When I was about 16, 18, 20, 25 even, if somebody turned around to me and said to me, firstly said to me, you will become a reservist police officer, and then secondly said you'd work as a specialist in the forensic industry, I would have said, impossible. Not at all. I can't even imagine it. The first half of my life was spent on things like, I was an IT guy, I worked in computer industries, I did work in motor industry related places, but I never would have thought that this, it's actually quite funny. You know what brought me into this industry? A woman. So there was this little hairdresser I knew. She used to, as you can see, I've got this box cut thing doing, and she could cut my hair this way. So because I went there so much, the box cut, yeah, because I went there so many times, we got to know each other, became friends. Now I used to joke, I used to go to for a regular cut and blow, and
Does Jackie know that part?
yeah, she does. This is actually the going joke. So I used to go to her for this regular cut and blow thing, and then we did a scuba diving course together.
Diving?
And she, scuba diving, course together, and she was going home, and I was going home, and she was involved in a crash, and I didn't know this till the next day. And trying to be the knight in shining armor, the hero of witpad and not the alcoholic on a donkey, I went and voluntarily examined and investigated her case. She had short-term retrograde amnesia. She couldn't remember what happened exactly. She said she saw lights, she felt the crash. I wrote what I decided was my interpretation of what happened and gave it to her. And while I was in Canada, an attorney contacted me and said, "Can you not testify as an expert?" And I'm like, "You're crazy, I could never. What do you mean expert? I'm not an expert." And he said, no, just send me your CV, I'll worry about the rest. And I said, okay, I sent him my CV. And then I decided, well, if he's going to call me to court, I'd better damn well sure watch what I'm saying and how I do things. So I went and looked at how things were being done in Canada. So I looked at the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, I looked at how they do it, and started interacting with people there, getting involved with Mike Kennedy, Aris 360 and all these things. And eventually when I came back to testify in this matter, the court actually accepted me as an expert. So I have her to thank specifically for the fact that I'm in this industry. And looking back now, the least I can do when I'm in Port Elizabeth again is take her a spin in my new car. I'll just see if her husband approves.
People think that we use the lights and sirens to rush to go and get our lunch while it's warm or anything like that. And all the policemen and everybody else of the world thinks you just drive an ambulance. But I can tell you something now. Driving the ambulance is like driving your personal car or doing anything like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back of the ambulance and on the scene to get you into the ambulance and then get you to hospital. Certain procedures that the guys do and we do to life-saving procedures, small little things, just to get you to hospital on time and to make sure that you're there safely. And it's not just driving the ambulance. And people come up and say, "Who's the ambulance driver?" Well, sorry, one of us has got to get there. But there's always the ambulance driver mentality. People don't realize that in the 1940s and 50s that come, you'd be having a heart attack and they'd just put you on the stretcher and the two orderlies would sit up front and you'd lie there having a heart attack and they'd rush you off to hospital. And then that only care would begin at hospital when the doctor saw you. Now there's a lot of pre-hospital care that happens and a lot of procedures in that can be done beforehand.
I mean, if you made me a gynecologist tomorrow, I'd be mortified. It would never be the same for me. But there are people that do that. I just couldn't. We are fortunate that we have people that can come into different industries that are capable of working with the dead, deadly and dying. And I'm including the deadly part because our police officers are the same, our traffic officers, they work with life and death situations. When we used to work together in the police and we did executions of warrants on drug houses and all the rest, we typically went there eager and excited to do this. But if you really stopped and thought about it carefully, you'd go, but this is dumb. Why would I want to go into the house? The guy can shoot me and kill me. So you just wouldn't do it. N7 above the Bosmansdam Bridge, or below the Bosmansdam Bridge. Yeah, when it comes to response driving, I prefer to be known as safe rather than fast. When I cross an intersection, in my mind, I'm hoping that people are standing or parked watching and say something along the lines of, did you see how safely they did that? So as long as people can see what I do as safe, especially since I work in a road safety environment, it's very important that what I do looks like I'm doing what everybody else does, but in a way that's a lot safer. So you don't want people judging you. So if I did anything wrong, people will be quick to say, and he always knows better. He's always telling us what to do and how we should do it. So I've got to also be conscious of my social image. So I've got to stay this side of the line of excitement at times. Yeah? Not always, just times. What we've got here is we've got two vehicles in a collision. From the evidence we have available, we can see that the white BMW involved was traveling in a generally western direction. He was approaching the intersection. The LDV was traveling in a southerly direction. The BMW collided with the left rear of the LDV. The vehicles rotated counterclockwise and ended up in the final resting positions. We haven't received any confirmation of the number of injuries yet, but it's quite obvious that there are some. A lot of emergency services available. And in a case of this kind, there will be arguments about traffic lights, or whether they were on or off, human perception reaction time, who saw who, how far, how they reacted or what they did to the situation, stopping distances, i.e. who could have braked and stopped, and of course vehicle dynamics and who was driving, who was sitting when. On a night like tonight, possible intoxication.
Get up and look and what's going on. You have been removed. Everybody phones me, what did you do wrong? I'm like, I don't know,
but give me a chance, I'll think of something.
Maybe because I'm black. Or I smile too much.
You must say to them, it's because I'm black.
I'm gonna play the race car.
No, sorry. I checked out all the videos and they came on this duck with In this case, we've got double airbag deployment and side curtain deployment. This obviously indicates the vehicle rotated violently and that there was a frontal collision, as we can clearly see. What concerns us is the windshield that's broken just above the driver position. That could be because of the airbag deploying, but if somebody wasn't wearing a seatbelt, you'd find the same evidence.
I get choked up when one of the stories I tell. It really makes me emotional. It was an accident out in the N7 between the Weybridge and the Morningstar Tunnel. Mother, father, a young girl and a young boy. And the mother and the daughter clambered out of the car, but the dad was sore, he couldn't get out, and his son was with him. And we came tearing up the freeway, and we got up there, and when we got on scene later on in the evening, the father said to me that he'd told his son that as soon as he heard the sirens coming, he says, just relax, boy, you know, do you hear the noise? That's the guys coming to us. That's the guys coming to help us.
One of the issues we obviously have in crash cases like this is when there's no police presence yet and evidence is starting to change, people are starting to move cars. But of course, with no police officer present, many people won't understand when you are allowed to move evidence or when not. In the case of this kind, at an intersection with a possible red light, with injuries, with two vehicles involved and vehicles unable to drive, there's a potential for a criminal case, specifically reckless or negligent driving, to be opened. So we'll have to see how this unfolds.
On 1 or 2 or 3 or 7 or 27 occasions, I get a call, leave the house and get back an hour later, and my now wife says, so you're cheating on me with the N7 freeway again.
Okay, so what's happening at the moment is the fire department's cutting the battery wire. This is so to cut any live battery supply or voltage to any of the electronic components. Obviously the crash things are damaged and the fire risk is real, severe and immediate. So they cut the supply so that no fire is going to occur here. At the same time, if the airbags haven't deployed yet, there's a risk that they can deploy while people are operating inside the vehicle. So they cut the battery to stop supply, but the risk isn't eliminated. So everybody has to be careful in and around the vehicle. sometimes you say things in an enforcement capacity. You say, look, I'm going to arrest you, things, and you think to yourself, how exactly? Okay, so one Sunday, while I was working in the Arrival High vehicle, we went down, Robert gave me a call, he said to me, there's this guy at one of the restaurants on the beach that took a chain, he beat people up, got into his vehicle, he's driving, but he's under the influence. So I rush out to the scene, we find this guy. He's driving his LDV all over the road, hardly staying in the middle, box the guy and stop him eventually. So I get out the car, we approach this guy, he's obviously drunk. Open his door, I said to him, so you're going to step out of the car, because we essentially now arresting you for drunken driving. But this guy must have weighed 140 kilograms. He's like a half a head taller than Robert, probably closer to 2 meters. He's got Satan cut into his arm with a blade. He's got tattoos on his forehead, tattoos up his arm, and of course the first thing he says is, oh, fuck you. Now we're standing thinking, all right, we've got to get him out the car, we've got to manage this man, but he's yay wide. So I see this trouble coming. There's only one solution, right? Liquid embarrassment. Pepper spray, immediately the Hulk becomes a hamster, up against the vehicle, cuff him, but of course from the splash of the pepper spray, young Robert got tagged, he cried like a cupcake, he fell on the pavement, he stood there lying, crying, wailing, yelping like a little puppy. It's just so amazing how well that works. When you place it well, aim it well, and only give a little bit. And every single time we've had the same solution, I mean, never had that not work, which is cool. And so, if you were to ask me what is the biggest cause of collisions, is it alcohol? I'd say no, most definitely not. It's not alcohol that is the greatest cause.
This isn't a job for me. This isn't a job. And that's the problem lately, is people apply to do this because they want a job. This isn't a job. You can't do this as a job. You've got to do this as a calling. You're going to want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to an accident.
It's all about the forensic evidence, really, at the end of the day. Because with fire investigations, it's always about source, it's about the temperatures involved, and it's about chemicals. In vehicles, fires don't just start. Normally, there's something that caused heat that went in excess of something else's ability to stay unlit, or there's some chemical interaction and something flashed and it started flames that burned things, or it's arson.
You've got to take note of where you're driving and what you're driving on your road. Because the tire, it might be a big tire, but it's what, the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
There's 4 palms of your hand that's keeping you to the ground.
Just normal coffee. Normal coffee.
Coffee.
This is my side. In the moment of weakness and normality, stand by the base.
Stand! I fucking challenge!
Every single person you stop in a roadblock, or that was involved in a collision or whatever, that you're about to breathalyze a test, that's the same thing. Men have had 2 beers and girls have had 2 glases wijn in a year. Women always just take 2 glases wijn, but they can't stand, they can't speak.
All of us are hooligans. We hang out with guys like Stan, so they have to be
The distractive factor of a cell phone, it's no different between handheld and hands-free.